Good evening. My name is Mary Maslowski. I'm Chair of the Historic District and Historical Commission for the Town of Harwich. We will call to order the meeting for Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. It's 6 p.m. We're holding this meeting in the small hearing room at Town Hall, 732 Main Street. Before we get started, if anyone intends to video or audio record this meeting, they are requested to notify the chair. Hearing none, we will start with the roll call.
Bob Doan.
Brendan Lowney.
Lynn Zalisak.
Julia Eldridge.
All right, so we have one item on our agenda this evening, and it is to discuss putting 203 Bank Street on the historic property inventory list. We have recommended that it receive Harwich Historic funding, and council had brought up the fact that it was not actually listed on our inventory. I'd just like to go around the room and discuss what your thoughts are on it. I certainly think it meets the qualifications for being listed on our inventory. It certainly does have historic value in the town of Harwich. So we'll start with Bob. And
Yeah, it definitely has historic significance because of its role in Harwich historically, being the fire station for many, many years. It also, just to remind people, sometimes we call this the 100-year list. It isn't. It's the actual historic property inventory list, and any property of any age could be put on that list. That's it for me.
Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Bob just said on everything there, so I'm good.
I agree too, and even if it were just based on 100 years, it's so close in age that.
True.
Julie?
Yep, agreed.
All right, then I would entertain a motion, and I would suggest that we make a finding that the building has a historic significance within the town of Harwich, and that Bank Street, 203 Bank Street, with its map and parcel, be included on the property list. Somebody want to take a stab at the motion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
That we put 203 Bank Street, map 23, parcel B3, on the Harwich Historic Property Inventory list due to its historic nature of being the fire station for many years.
Second.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Hey.
We have a motion's been made by Bob. It's been seconded by Brendan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. I would like to raise one other question for the board and for you folks while you're here. It looked like the article may have included a historic preservation restriction on the building. I don't know where it came from. It didn't come from CPC. I know we didn't vote it that way. I'm not sure whether it came from council or if it was part of the
What's the restriction?
so it would be a deed restriction. That would go on the building for historic preservation. So I don't know that I personally don't know that it's necessary. If it's on the historic inventory list, it kind of works in the same way. And it's very similar.
It still comes back to us with a new owner.
It would come back, it would stay on the inventory list unless for some reason we took it off the inventory list. And I can't imagine that happening at any point going forward what you're gonna do with it. But I just wanted to raise that to the board because it's been brought up at CPC a couple of times that people have seen that on the article, and I'm not sure how it came into the article in the first place, so.
We're not aware of that in our discussions. What is the plus and what's the minus of having that language there?
So probably not the best person to answer that question. I think the minus is it's a deed restriction, right? So it would run with the property. It would have to be maintained historically, but I think that would still have to come through us either way.
That's why we're here.
And I don't know that it's any different than in reality and practicality. I don't think it's very different from being on the historic inventory list, because any demolition, you're gonna come before us anyway, and we'll talk about what you're doing with the property. So it's probably less restrictive to be on the inventory list, because it's not actually kind of in the chain of title.
Our intent is to reach out to you folks for your guidance. You know, if you want the shingles a certain color, you don't want the shingles, you know, things like that.
Yep.
We're here for your guidance because we want to, get one bite at this apple, and
Yeah.
yes, that building has real significance to this town. We want to have a place for that first fire truck. We're going to put that in there. And we have significant money invested in that. This is a really good thing for so many, but we want to make sure we do it right. And we're going to be looking for your guidance and your counsel on how to go forward.
Great.
Could that have anything to do with the fact that the conservation lands are right next to it?
No,
And this is also,
shouldn't.
you may or may not know, we are absolutely in concert with ACT on this. This is a joint venture with them.
Yeah, it had come up in conversation, so I just wanted to address it here. I don't think this board had any intention of requiring a historic preservation restriction on it.
It never came up before. when
So,
I
so for what it's worth, if it needs to get amended at town meeting, I guess I would be comfortable with that being removed if
Yeah.
it was asked to be removed. Because we've taken the step and put it on the inventory list. So I think that is the belts and suspenders for the CPC funds and using the historic preservation funds.
But their permit would come after town meeting.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. All right,
Correct.
Yeah, then you're in good shape.
And then I know you had a few questions that you wanted to ask the board, so feel free.
I did have a couple of
Could you
questions.
just state your name for the record?
Yeah, Bruce Young, I'm the president of the Harwich Fire Association. Chairman, through you and your board, on behalf of the Harwich Fire Association, I'd like to thank you all for supporting us in this endeavor. We are working with the Harwich Conservation Trust. It is a historical building in our minds as well. We do want to put the town's first motorized fire truck in that building. And I think it's going to draw people to that part of town with the Conservation Trust, with the new trails and the ponds, and us renovating that, the first firehouse in the town.
It'll be nice to have it refurbished.
It'll look better than not having those gray doors on the front of that place. And I'm sure the neighbors will be a lot happier as well. I did talk a little bit earlier, and I guess we have to put in the notice of intent for the demo, for what we want to put back on for asphalt shingles, what we want to put in there for windows, what we want to put on for white trim, and what we want to put on for exterior shingles. We are looking at this maintenance-wise too. I don't know if the board has any issues with AZAC trim or a composite shingle, sidewall shingle on that historical building, or if you want us to go with, a cedar shingle that's dipped, wood shingle.
So I think we've pretty much been okay with AZAC
Yeah,
as long as it was painted.
Correct.
And I know you folks have had concerns about the caps on the AZAC at some point, so that I would think I would let
Yeah,
them
we
know.
tend not to cap the Cortex screw system with the caps. It just collects dust and rings, so you can tell it's AZAC. But the
Right.
painters know now just to do typical Bondo, sand it, and it's a basic prep and paint
Yeah, it's a
of the
cleaner
exact
finish.
material. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they won't be surprised with that application.
Right.
And just to clarify, now that you're on the inventory list, it makes you subject to the demo delay bylaw. The demo delay bylaw is what requires the notice of intent application to the building department. What it is, you put in the application what you're going to demolish, what you're going to replace it with. This board generally likes to see samples if you have them.
Okay.
And then that gets published in the paper, put on our next agenda, and it's a full public hearing for public comment, and then we vote it up or down. And typically, the way our demo delay bylaw is currently written is that anything is demo. If you're removing one cedar shake, unless you are replacing like for like, it's considered demo
Okay.
for the purpose of that bylaw. So That's how we've treated it. We've had people come in and, generally speaking, with, our ability is generally to put in a demo delay up to 12 months. Certainly that's not generally what happens when it's renovations and those kinds of things, but.
So we could, Norm Clark, on the committee, I'm a retired fire chief. So we could come in with samples of all of our exterior
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and hit it all at once.
Yep.
And what about we want to, obviously those roll-up steel doors are going. What kind of materials would suffice as any stuff you could see with the doors?
So I think generally speaking, if you know the brand and the style, if there's a small sample, then people have brought us small samples of what the product is. Brendan tends to know the brands and the names and the item
I
numbers
think when the time
more
comes,
than
if
any
you
of the
bring in
rest of us.
The spec sheets. So for example, Windows, whether you're using Anderson, Marvin, or Harvey, whatever you're using for Windows, bring in that spec sheet and you can get that from, when you start pricing out the job. As far as the garage doors, same thing. Most likely you're gonna come up with a more of a composite door, if anything. You're gonna be doing the AZAC trim, and then maybe there might be, the cedar shingles is probably something we would probably lean towards, but we can make that decision when you bring those materials in.
Okay.
Whether it's natural, single, double dipped, or if you want to bring in a composite material or the hardy backer stuff, you can also bring that as well. But bring that material and we can go through all that with you and help you decide.
And just for clarification, I understand, I'm educated now what demolition, well, obviously we're gonna take off all the rotten shingles and trim and put on new, but that constitutes demolition.
It does.
Yeah.
But in general terms, the building is what you see, is what's gonna be there.
Yeah, that's the footprint you're staying with.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For that bylaw, it was, the way it's written, it doesn't really, it doesn't necessarily mean a full demo. So it's anything that's getting replaced that's not gonna be like for like, and obviously you don't want it like for like, and neither do we at this point. So, so it, as long as you list everything you're gonna do on that application, you'd be fine going forward, So, we can put all of that into that one decision.
And then another nice thing about the project is we fully intend to use Harwich contractors as much
Nice.
as we can.
Cool.
Great.
Nice.
Excellent.
Well, that part of that demolition bylaw is like, I got a historical house in town that was built in 1740, and if I came forward and said, I want to tear it down and build a new house on that lot, that triggers that 12-month delay, because I want to eliminate the whole thing instead of just remodeling.
It could. I mean, even the small demo could trigger the delay, but generally speaking, I think we've only done it on a full demolition. I don't recall us doing it on a partial, but yes, it's up to 12 months, and it's typically to encourage working with this board on what's going to replace it,
Yes.
right? So hopefully it's
It's going to be for the better.
yeah, always, right?
Yeah, and if they don't like what they see, we're gonna blame you.
Yeah, of course. Won't be the first. It won't be the first time I get blamed for something. That's for sure. Anything else?
That's it, you answered all my questions.
Perfect.
Great.
Then I think if there's nothing else that the board wants to discuss, I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
All right, it's been made by Lynn, it's been seconded by Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, we are adjourned.